welcome to the Payments Leaders Show, where I'm your host, Adrian Evans, and really thrilled today because this guest has been anticipated for quite some time because we've been trying to get a time in the diary and things. So without further ado, Laura, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, delighted that you are, and there's a couple of key reasons why I'm so keen to have you on the show. Is that obviously our show is about human-centric leaders leading with values, but your broad view of the industry, I think, is certainly rare, if not unique. You've obviously worked for a scheme in terms of American Express. You've worked in banking with Citi and parts of Santander. You've obviously worked in marketplace with Amazon, and also then you've worked in social with Meta and with Accenture. So that just gives this wonderful, wide perspective of the industry. And I know you're so passionate about the industry and the difference it can make as well. So without further ado, I wonder if we could get into the first question, which is, firstly, thank you for taking the time out. But say, given your track record, given your track record gained across each one of those elements, can you share your lens and why you're so passionate about the payments industry?
Okay. Well, first of all, I have to be honest with you and tell you I fell into the payments industry like most people do. Right?
Yeah.
I fell in love with the blue box, which was American Express.
Okay.
It was a big brand, a premium brand, global. I just wanted to travel around the world, and so to me, American Express gave the perfect opportunity to have an international career. So that's why I got into payments. But then when I got into it, American Express was a great training ground because it had acquiring, issuing, it had that travel heritage, which made it kind of special. It had great loyalty programs. I think it launched membership rewards when I was there, as well as things like just data analytics and working with small business owners. So it was a great place to get a grounding in payments. And I was there for 10 years. So, and it also had a great reputation for values and culture. So it was a great place to build my knowledge. But then I did take that knowledge, I took the values, I took the strategic thinking to other companies, which was good because I was able to put it into practice. Yeah. So working with American Express was great when I moved to Amazon and to Meta, being able to work from the merchant side or the marketplace side. But the reason I'm passionate about payments, which is really your question, right? I digress. I'm passionate because payments is evolving so quickly. When I was originally in payments back in the 90s, I know I'm dating myself, but it was a little bit boring because it was just kind of a race between networks. Or teams, we call them in the UK. It was about, can I get 1% market share above yours? Yeah. And that was boring. But now it's really about payments is evolving to meet the needs of the changing customer behavior, new business models like marketplaces, social commerce, metaverse, you name it. And also it's partnering with the regulators and government to really try and figure out how we can meet the needs of the people in each geography. And the other thing that makes it really interesting is that all payments are local. Payments are like a reflection of the culture of a country. I just find it fascinating going from country to country and seeing how different people's buying behaviors are and how the government works with the industry to make it happen and to create commerce and drive GDP, right?
Wow. I love this. And all payments are local. I love that when somebody says something that I've never heard before. Tell me more about why payments are local.
Well, I didn't realize that I'm being an American. You can hear from my accent. I am an American, right? I moved here to London in 2001. So we're talking 22 years ago. Yep. And my job was global. So I had 22 countries to deal with, work across. And I was gobsmacked when I went to Germany and I saw that they use cash still, and it was all about cash. And I went to China and it was all about Alipay and WeChat Pay, and then India, forget about it. Back then it was pretty crazy. Now they're leading market leading in terms of what they're doing with UP and everything else. But I just found it fascinating how different things were.
Okay.
And being an American, again, I was told when I was with American Express, like, we love sending our good people out to the ROW, rest of the world, to with best practices. And I really believed that I was going to be able to bring my greater knowledge and expertise to ROW,
right, okay,
how to do things. And but the learning was all on me, because everything was so different. So that's my little, payments are local, and it is a reflection of each country. And you can't just walk in and plant your own ideas of what payments are about on the country. You have to work with them from the ground up to figure out how to optimize it.
brilliant, brilliant. So I know you're obviously very excited about the opportunities as payments is, I suppose it's never been a time in payments where it's been this exciting and this customer led, I think, frankly, as well. But what opportunities do you see in the payments industry, particularly regarding the relationship with big tech? How do you see that working, and how do you see that evolving?
Well, I think it starts with the wallet. I think you're seeing a growing migration towards wallets. Right now people are adopting wallets like never before. And so big tech has a unique opportunity because they have wallets. First think of Apple Pay, Google Pay, Amazon Pay, PayPal,
Yep.
WeChat Pay, Alipay. These are some great wallets that are already gaining in ubiquity around the world. And then if you layer on top of these wallets, things like identity or verification, just verification of who we are when we're doing commerce, we're doing transactions online or through the metaverse or through social media channels. So imagine you take the wallet, you take on identity, you take on commerce and networks, you build connections between people. So there's never been a more exciting time for big tech companies to get involved because they have such big customer bases and because they have networks in place. And I think that I know that this is a bit scary to a lot of my friends in banks.
Yeah.
Because they used to ask me when I was at Amazon, like, are you going to become a bank? I was at Meta, are you going to become a bank? I'm like, no. I don't think that Meta or Amazon want to become banks. I think that they want to find ways of engaging their customers, and they want to find ways of tying in their customers. So they want to partner with the banks. They want the banks to do the risk management. They want their banks to do the hard work that's regulated. They want to stay out of the regulatory fund. They want to just simply engage their customers in a different way. And that's my opinion anyway. So, but it's definitely a hot topic and not one that's lost on me, because people bring it up to me all the time.
Yeah. It's become the dinner party conversation, hasn't it? And I think it's really interesting what you're saying there is almost the dance between actually big tech and bank, which is, we know what we want to do and you're really good at this, and actually you've been doing regulation for hundreds of years in some cases. We want to dance. Yep. We don't necessarily want to be and lead that particular dance. That's my sense.
Yeah. Well, look at Meta. I can't remember, 2.9 billion customers, 2.9 billion users, active users around the world. Who doesn't want to tap into that network?
Yeah.
That's the opportunity that big tech brings to financial services. So the question is, how can financial services tap into that and really support that and leverage that? Wow. We've all heard what Elon Musk wants to do. So
well, go on, give us your take on that.
Well, I mean, look, Elon Musk did launch PayPal a long time ago. I think he had visions for PayPal. He is a genius, clearly. I don't always agree with everything he says.
Yep.
So, and I think sometimes he's a madman, but I also believe that he gets things done that we don't believe can be done.
Yep.
So when he says he's going to build a super app in the US, I think you should pay attention. Whether or not that super app will be able to, be adopted in the rest of the world, I don't know. But I know that, don't discount this guy because he gets it.
Yeah, he was part of that original PayPal mafia, isn't he? Which, if you look at the caliber of those, from Reid Hoffman to Peter Thiel, etc., they've been the epicenter of Silicon Valley, and it's tens of hundreds of organizations that have come to fruition as a direct result of their funding.
Yeah, and believe me, I actually want to see what he can do. I'm excited about it. Like I told you, it's that marriage of big tech and financial services. I'm personally excited about it.
Yeah.
I only wish that he would get out of his own way sometimes, because he sometimes says things that alienate so many people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, I know you're passionate about building a business and an effective operating culture based on and underpinned by strong human values. And I know you're not the first to say as well, with American Express, just how much that has been a training ground for so much best practice and actual values. Can you share what good looks like from that, from building you mentioned values on the wall, but it's actually, it's what we do per day, the transparency, the trust. What does good look like, and how do you build that?
Well, so American Express has great values, but they actually live them.
Yes. Yeah.
So one thing they really did have, I can compare it to some other companies that don't really, they have values, but it's kind of a secondary. It's more about the what you do versus the how you do it. Absolutely. With American Express, it was more about the how you do it than the what. So let me give you an example to bring it to life for you. So every year we had our reviews like every company does. And American Express offers 2 different ratings, your leadership rating and your goal rating. So you have a G rating and an L rating. And let's say that you are the best at your goals. You're a G1, you've surpassed all goals, and you're the top. But on the L rating, you're an L4, which means that L5 is the lowest. L4 is like, you got issues as a leader, and you have kind of trampled all over people to get your goals achieved. American Express won't think twice about getting rid of you. Wow. And they were serious about that. I've seen it. I saw it happen. I saw leaders who were great at getting the job done and getting their, having the best sales, etc., but then not being good leaders and being pushed out, or being offered an individual contributor role. Now, Amex was also very good about working with people on trying to find the right job for them, because you want to utilize people's strengths. If they're not a good leader, maybe they're good at an individual contributor.
Sure.
But a lot of people's egos don't let them do that. It's a fact. Find something else, some other company to destroy through poor leadership. So, but that's an example of American Express that it really held close to my heart, and I've kind of taken that with me from then on. And I can't work for a company that doesn't put the how above the what.
Wow. It's amazing, because that's what a big part of the work we do as a company. But actually seeing it and that explicit, I've never seen that. Lots of companies talk about, okay, you've got the L and the G, others will use the how and the what's, and etc. And that's becoming more and more. But again, this is to actually not think about firing somebody like that is, in a way, it's sort of pretty healthy, because it shows we follow through, because there's so many organizations where it's, but have you seen the deals they've got? That I've been in so many of those situations. They've got the largest client base or whatever that may be. That's amazing to actually see that live in action. You touched on it there as well, though. It's like, well, actually, is this person the right person to be a leader? And perhaps could they be a great individual contributor, or could they manage us somewhere else and trying to look at it? Because talent is, as we know, always difficult to come by. Now, we share a belief in the value of strengths-led leadership, and actually leading our people identifying their strengths. So I wonder if you could share how you recruit. I know you've got a strong talent acquisition background, and just like myself, and how you recruit and build teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the best example of that for me was Amazon. Now, at first at Amazon, I broke all the rules, and well, actually, that's kind of funny, because part of my philosophy has been built on the basis of one book that I read. I don't know how long ago. 15 years ago, called "First Break the Rules." Have you heard of that book?
I've not come across it, but I will be buying it. Yep.
Amazing book. First Break the Rules. Now, the reason I bought the book is I love the title, First Break the Rules, because I love breaking rules. That's why I bought the book. But to be honest, the book was actually, when I actually read it, I was like, oh, wow, this is mind blowing. This is groundbreaking thinking. And the thinking is, rather than focusing your organization or yourself or your teams on fixing what's wrong with them, seeing their weaknesses, you should focus on their strengths. And it really explained why. And it stuck with me, because imagine if you let me use myself as an example. So I am good at all things, written, verbal communication. I'm good at writing speeches, writing documents, writing short stories, writing poems, writing songs, writing. I'm good. I'm a good writer, and I'm a good communicator. I am terrible at admin. I'm terrible. I never get my expense reports done on time. Taxes. I'm always the last minute Larry, or even late. And I remember my boss told me one time, I said, I was working on my development plan for the year. And I said, I want to really focus on my speaking skills and my writing skills. And he said, well, you're already good at that. So you need to focus on your time management. And I was like, okay. So for the last 20 years, I think I've had in my development plan, focusing on time management. And I'm still bottom quartile, right? And in the speaking and communication and writing, I'm probably in the top quartile.
Yes. Yeah.
But if I had focused on it, if I had really focused on it back in the day, I might have been in the top 1%. That's a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Think of someone like Serena Williams. She's a great, tennis player. What if we had told her, you're a great tennis player, but you should really work on your golf game?
Yeah. I'm with you.
So this is what I took into my team, and I said, I'm going to focus on making sure, first of all, you hire the team. I broke the rules by first getting to know people and their motivations. So when I went into, we were supposed to do these phone screenings first, but I would always meet people, because I like to meet people and understand what drives them, what their motivations are, what they're passionate about. And I hired people more based upon the suitability and the drive and the motivation before I put them through the process. The process is very much prescribed at Amazon. We have to put people through the process, and they're interviewed based upon the values of the company, which is great. But I do think there's that coupling, trying to look at what are the values and that you're trying to hire for. Let them do the competency-based interviews as the company prescribes with a panel. We called it a loop at Amazon. You go through a loop. You're meeting with like 6 people, including a bar raiser. You're going to make sure that every person you hire is better than the last one. So that's great. So that you go through the process, but also as a leader, find out their motivations. And then when I'm building the culture, I was 100% strengths-based leadership. So I thought, you know what? I'm not going to find everyone who's good at everything. I want to focus on making my team perfect. So how do you make the team perfect? You make the team perfect by getting everyone to focus on their strengths. So if you're great at sales, I had one guy who could sell snow the Eskimos. He's great at sales. I'm like, you're amazing at that. He wasn't good with numbers and metrics and stuff like that. So I'm like, you're not going to be a sales team leader. You are the best salesperson we have. And I want to give you credit for that by making you the European mentor to other salespeople. And actually, I remember people gave him a standing ovation when I announced it, that he was going to be not only doing his own business, but also serving as a mentor to the other salespeople across the organization. Everyone stood up and gave a standing ovation because they loved him. And then that gave him meaning and purpose, leadership, and gave him the ability to develop other people without having to do the boring stuff that I had to do. Write the monthly business reviews that you have to write. But my job was really to, again, figure out what people are great at, work on the roles and responsibilities, and just light it up. Let people be brilliant. And then my team was like rocking, I tell you. And people were having fun. And if you can have fun at work, doesn't that make you a better team player, a better
Absolutely. No, I just couldn't concur more with. I always felt that in a large organization, I was very good at selling and speaking, etc., but had really poor admin skills, and um, and so it was, and I had other people in my team like that. We just got phenomenal admin support, and just said these people love, they love being organized. Yeah, so we can raise them and raise us and raise the overall performance. And to this day, desktop research is a pet dislike of mine. I have a phenomenal, I mean, phenomenal researcher, and she's amazing at that. And it's like, so, and again, I love what you just said about the missed opportunity in the Serena Williams example. It would be crazy for us to do that. Let's try and get you to scratch at golf. That would just be, what a waste of talent and time and effort that would be.
Yeah, and also just think also not only about your functional expertise or passions, but also think about your working style. You mentioned, like when we talked about admin, you and I both have that in common where we don't love it. But I took this I can't remember the course. Was it the Belbin?
Yep.
It was a Belbin test, and we had there are different types of people. There were the completer finishers.
Sure.
And I remember I scored like a low.
Yeah. Me too.
I'm completer finisher. Yet I was good on chairman and shaper.
Yeah.
So
well, there you go.
Do also recognize that there are different work styles. And I'm a big thinker. I like to think about, if you have a project that nobody else can even think about tackling, I'll do that. If you have like stuff that has to get done like today, and like completer finisher stuff that's in the inbox and it gets done, I'm not that person.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out how do you find people, because I had wonderful people working in my team who were completer finishers, and they couldn't go to sleep at night if there was something in that inbox.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and isn't it
Love
amazing
them.
though? I think when you realize, it's almost, for me, I was very passionate about this, is that the earlier in your career you can understand that and recognize and go, this is me. It's not that I won't work on stuff, but I'm never going to be stellar at admin. I'm never going to be stellar at going through a procurement process, etc. But there's people who are phenomenal at that, and it raises them. So yeah, glad I found a sort of connection on that one. So obviously, and the other things are just fun. You whenever I see you, you are one of those people, is whatever event it is, whether it's an awards ceremony, whether it's chairing, etc., you do look like you're having fun. And I've got to believe that actually the more fun we can have, actually the better we'll rise, and so others will arise. Tell me about fun for you. Well, what does fun mean for you at work?
Well, I mean, I always believed in it with my teams. I always bring fun into the team, and I'm genuinely mean. I think you know me well enough to know that I tend to do my admin in the morning if I have to do it. So I do my emails and things in the morning, and then I come to life in the afternoon. And so thank you for organizing this call at 9 a.m., which is when not my brilliant time. But when I come out at around noon,
We'll do it again. We'll do it again at 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock. You'll just be a different person.
Different. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Like I'm on fire at night. I'm a night bird.
Yeah, we'll bin this one then. We'll bin this one.
Let's do it again.
Yeah.
But no, I just believe it. I would always kind of come in with a burst of energy, because I think my energy was kind of contagious with the other team members.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And you get people communicating and talking and having fun and doing work. I mean, we loved what we were doing. We, again, by being a strengths-based leader, you build that culture, the culture of fun and excitement and appreciation of different cultures. We loved traveling. We had this international, once a month we would have a international dinner night. And even if people were virtual, we would all we'd pick a region where we cook a meal together in each country. This is during lockdown, so it was easy. So we all cooked, and someone would talk us through on Teams about their local dish. We would all dress up the way we wanted to dress up. So it was just trying to bring in a bit of fun, a bit of diversity during lockdown. It's like, what are you going to do?
Brilliant. What about diversity then for you? That seems something that's just in your DNA to, I suppose it is a truism, or it's a truism for most of the world, that the more diversity we can bring in, and when we harness that effectively, it's going to lead to better innovation, particularly when it's aligned to our customers' innovation, diversity as well. Tell me about your views on diversity and inclusion.
Well, again, diversity. I mean, for me, I grew up in a man's world. I mean, I grew up at Lazard Frere, for God's sakes. I was in investment banking. I was, a woman in a man's world. So I definitely learned the need for integrating, feminine skills. I was actually, the thing is, I had to change who I was as a leader back then. I had to into the man's world.
Sure. Yeah.
I had to be able to tell the dirty jokes and drink the 3 martini lunches and and I could do it, by the way. I could do it. But men couldn't. I could speak man, but men couldn't speak women. So man's world, but they didn't really know how to do the women's world. So fast forward to Amazon. When I joined Amazon, I saw that Amazon was very much, it was opposite of me in many ways. I don't know if you speak Myers-Briggs, but Amazon is very ISTJ, and I'm very ENFP. So opposite on the Myers-Briggs scale. And what I realized at that age, I realized you can bring yourself to work. Yeah. So rather than me trying to fit into something else, I realized that I was diverse. Not only diverse in terms of gender, but I was diverse in terms of thinking. So while Amazon was probably a more introverted company, hence the memos, we talk to each other in memos. I was extroverted, so I would bring people away from the portal sometimes to get out there and talk to customers face to face or to each other. When the company was very data driven, the sensing where you build from the ground up from the data, I was more of an intuition person. So I would build a hypothesis and then test it with my team members. I realized we could work together really well that way. I'd create a hypothesis, they'd bring in the data driven thinking, we'd bring it together and it'd make a beautiful product, right? And when it came to feminine and masculine, yes, it's a thinking company. We didn't really use the word relationship, but I realized as a leader, they craved it. They craved the feminine skills, that so-called feminine skills of bringing that relationship to the business. So I brought my full self, and I think people appreciate that. And lastly, I'll just say my thing on process. Yes, the company is very process driven, but even Jeff Bezos was like me. He's a P like me. And he said, I'm going to quote Jeff, he said, you need to make sure that you own the process and the process doesn't own you. Yeah. And I found that was another deficiency within Amazon. They became too process driven because, again, you people like yourself. So people were hiring,
me too.
Thinking, process-driven people, and you have an organization like that, and you're missing, the customer focus, the intuition, the feeling, and the chaotic talents that the P's bring into place. So that's my thing on diversity. I don't focus too much on gender. I do focus more on really looking at we're getting those the complete work styles into the workplace. We work better together.
Yeah, just a point that I love that I think it's much more healthy to talk about feminine energy and masculine energy. And also the other piece for me that I think is really important as well is about cognitive diversity, because you could have, you and I could have gone to the same university, had the same law professors, grew up in the same place, etc., studied the same, etc. Our thinking would be very similar, even though we could even be a different color, but we're definitely a different gender. And I think I'm a big fan of, there's one book for me called Rebel Ideas by Matthew Said, who talks about the value of cognitive diversity in any complex task. And we're usually trying to fulfill complex tasks. So anyway, with that could take a whole podcast between us. So really excited, obviously, because you have a broad lens, but also I know you do some phenomenal work with the payments industry and also in terms of shaping policy and influencing policy as well. Just if we could keep it to sort of 18 months out from now, where do you see the payments industry heading by 2025?
Well, that is pretty soon. I mean, I do see, going back to my earlier comment about wallets. I think wallets, you're going to see them become more and more prevalent. I think identity is going to be the big discussion. So we need to, identity is kind of a bad word in the UK. We don't like to use that word because there was a referendum on like IDs a long time ago. But the idea of verification is really important because as we are now doing more and more social commerce and buying things through the internet and or the web, metaverse, etc., we need to know who we're dealing with, and we need to be able to fight fraud and crime, etc., by knowing who we're dealing with. So I think identity is going to be a much bigger topic. I think that we will, in the next, the jury's out on digital currency. We are playing with it right now. We're looking at the blockchain solutions and trying to figure out what the problem is and what kind of problems we're going to try and solve. But I do believe that there is a huge opportunity right now, has been forever, on cross-border. And so blockchain technology, digital currency, whether it's CBDCs or stable coins, or even that certain countries are coming together to form coalitions of coins that are going to be, so that's all coming to, that's all being explored right now. I don't think in 2 or 3 years that's going to come to fruition, but I think that this is a major focus. And I think it's important because, like I said, with cross-border, we have massive issues. And this, I believe, is a potential solution, if we get it right, to help solve the problems we have with cross-border remittances. Yeah, and then super apps. I'm a big fan of super apps. No one likes it. Everyone here in the West, they hate it. But I lived in Singapore, I lived in the East, I traveled around Asia. I spent half my time in China when I was in Asia for a couple of years. And I see the potential and the excitement about super apps. And I believe that while we're not going to have the same type of super app in the West, I believe that we're going to have some niche super apps by 2025. It might be a financial super app or an entertainment super app or a fashion super app or a travel super app. But I think you're going to have a wallet coupled with a payment method, coupled with identity, coupled with commerce in that particular niche segment. I think you're going to start seeing more and more of that. We're going to have multiple mini programs or mini apps working with that company. So watch this space. I think it's going to happen. I'm doing a panel discussion next week on super app, so tune in.
Yeah, I could see the energy and the enthusiasm you've got for that. So look, Laura, this is. Sorry?
What do you think about this book? I was going to write this book called 50 Shades of Super App.
Yeah. Is that look, I think the big thing is that the technology, so often, like in so many cases, the technology exists. Yep. And just like in payments, the inertia is there because of, in some cases, correctly, lack of trust. I think when it really, I think contactless is the best example for me. Yep. We wouldn't be where we are contactless today without the pandemic. And I don't carry any money. Recently I was in Ireland and I had to, have to pay for a cab, and he had to drive me to an ATM, and I was like, this is crazy. I haven't used cash for like nearly 2 years. So I think when you can make that safe for people, that they can then go on that journey, because the technology's here. It's always the human condition that it comes back to. But I think that would be an amazing book, especially if it advocated for building trust.
Yeah, I think trust is your key. You're 100%. When I was at Accenture, we talked about social commerce, and the biggest issue was trust.
Absolutely.
So imagine if you're shopping on Instagram, or there's still so much fraud in that area. So we need to, in order to really bring to life social commerce or commerce in the metaverse, got to have trust.
Yeah, and it's the organizations who build trust and longevity of trust that are going to be key to enable that to happen, because we know what happens when it's not. So Laura, this is the point where I normally just try and give it a short summary on what we've talked about, but I've got a couple of pages of notes here, so I'm wondering if I could just try and condense and then summarize our conversation. Is that okay?
Sure.
So we started the conversation with the sort of wide lens that you have, and I love the fact that you said that all payments is local, and actually then talked about your job not to take best practice, but actually to integrate and to make that work within each one of those markets. I think the relationship you talked about there with big tech, really about partnering with banks rather than, it's your view that, a lot of big tech is not trying to become a bank. Let the banks do what they do really, really well. They've got a history of working with the regulator. That's it's almost a dance from that perspective. Then I think the important part to underpinning that about not just having values, but living those values. And I love your example from Air Express, where if somebody was an L4 in terms of leadership rating 4 in the bottom quartile there, but their actual goals was a 1, it was they would have no problem taking that person out of a leadership role. I think that's a really great example of what I call an MOT, which is a moment of truth. We need moments of truth when somebody says, this is the data, and then somebody needs to put their hand up and go, we need to make a decision about that then. The data's telling us we need to make a decision. Really love what you're saying about values, strengths-led leadership. And the example you give there with Serena Williams, why would we want Serena Williams to play scratch golf or even get under 10? The greatest female tennis player ever. But as you say, it's a missed opportunity. And for me, if I want to say to the audience, for my audience here is, because I've certainly experienced this, is, work on your self-discovery to find out what you're really good at. Work with your line manager and your leader, what you're really good. Do more of that. Do more of that, and reduce the parts or delegate them or pass them to somebody else, the parts that are holding you back. And then in terms of looking at what you said about how you build teams, you lead with values first, and then we'll go into competency. I know we're both from an executive search background. That's exactly how I recruit. Yeah, my clients never gave me those briefs, but that's the way I look at it. And in terms of, love your perspective there on what's payments. Wallets is here to stay. Identity, or let's pull that together with verification, is going to be fundamental. And then in terms of cross-border, this seems a big opportunity there, but it's going to be based on trust. So thank you so much. That was hugely insightful. But the last word to yourself.
Well, no, thank you for engaging with the payments industry. I think it is a wonderful, wonderful group of people. I think that you asked me one of my passions about the payments industry, and I probably gave a clumsy answer, but the truth is, it is at the end of the day about the people working together. And it's one of the most special industries in that, I look at like the retail where people can't talk to each other. We collaborate every day. We collaborate with competitors, and one day it's a competitor and one day it's a partner, and we just work together to get it done. So thank you for engaging with us, and thank you for having me.
No, my absolute pleasure. And thank you for taking the time out. I really appreciate it.
Cheers. All right. Thanks, Adrian. Bye.